Hi, I'm Tanja. I'm a human rights lawyer with a background in international law and international politics, and my research project focuses on enforced disappearances. So imagine it's 3 in the morning and a half a dozen armed men storm into your house screaming, shouting, breaking into the door and looking for your son who is still asleep. He's 19 years old. They drag him out of bed in his sleeping clothes, take him with them, and assure you that they're going to bring him back as soon as possible. They just need to ask him some questions. You've never seen these men before, but based on their behavior, you assume that they somehow belong to governmental security forces. In the morning, you go to their office and you start inquiring about the whereabouts of your son, and everybody assures you, we have no idea where he is. We didn't arrest him, but of course we will initiate investigations as soon as possible. While you wait for them to do something and you start your own investigations, days become weeks, weeks become months, months become years, and you never hear about your son again. This practice became notorious in the context of the Latin American dictatorships in the 1970s and the 1980s. At this time, bereaved family members started to organize, and they created an influential international victims movement claiming for an international convention against enforced disappearances. This convention was successfully proclaimed in 2010. As you can see, most of the Latin American and South American states actually ratified the instrument, while most states in the Middle East and in Southeast Asia didn't ratify or sign the convention. Well, enforced disappearances is a global phenomenon. It occurs frequently in Africa, in the Middle East, and in Asia. We have frequent occurrences still in Central America, and we have even reported individual cases since War on Terror started in Europe and in North America. So that the Asian states did not ratify the convention so far, or not sign the convention so far, does not mean that they're not interested in countering this problem, because they started initiatives against it on the national level, which might indicate an inclination towards ratifying the international instruments as well. What my research is focused on are the historical origins in the Latin American context for the regime on enforced disappearances. And in a second step, I will look at Southeast Asia and at attitudes towards human rights in Southeast Asia. And I will try to assess if the international framework, which was shaped in a particular context, is applicable to a different context in another region of the world. And I will argue that the legal regime on enforced disappearances was developed to counter strategic security policy, organized security policy, which resulted in massive enforced disappearances. While in Southeast Asia, we basically have a breakdown of the rule of law. So we have a different political context. What I hope to achieve in my research are slight modifications and different interpretations that I can introduce in order to make the universal framework actually applicable in different regions. And I hope to support the work of national and international policymakers in their efforts to create effective preventative mechanisms against enforced disappearances in Southeast Asia. Thank you very much for your attention.